Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. Today we take a look at dedicated 3/8 inch impact wrenches to see which might be the most cost-effective option for the power they're delivering, using 4 different examples today from your local hardware and tool stores. And I mean dedicated as in each tool here is only offered as a 3/8 inch drive size. There are of course 3/8 inch versions of popular 1/2 inch impacts like compacts and mid-torques, which we found to sometimes be quite good really, but most of those models we've already tested in their 1/2 inch form. There does seem to be a market out there for a trusty 3/8 inch sidekick that many of the top brands cater to by offering a usually shorter length and especially smaller body to easily carry around and perform day-to-day tasks like top of the engine sort of stuff. All these tools, save for one oddity today, advertise about 160 foot-pounds, cost around the same, but deliver very different performance, as we'll find out. Starting out here with the Ryobi 1 Plus HP PSB IW01B, which sells for $119 bare, and well, as low as $99 for a kit sometimes, which we've seen before. Our brushed Ryobi mid-torque costs less when we bought it as a kit compared to buying it bare, so maybe not a rare instance. So that one we also awarded a $99 price point on our ranking. This is part of Ryobi's HP line, which means a brushless motor and usually their top tech. But in this case, the tool isn't sporting terminal pickups for their fancy battery communication, something they do with many of their lower cost HP tools. So battery type might not make as much a difference as it does with the tools that have those terminal pickups. We'll do some testing towards the end of this episode to find out for you. Since Ryobi doesn't sell a straight up compact dedicated impact line, this is sort of it. At 5.43 inches long, it certainly qualifies, the smallest and shortest on the day. What's very much not the smallest or shortest or heck even brushless is our next contestant, the Harbor Freight Earthquake EQ38XT-20V, which sells as a kit for $135 and isn't sold bare. The Earthquake is a full 6.7 inches long thanks to its brush motor, but advertises the same 160 foot-pounds as the Ryobi. Hopping first from the Home Depot's Ryobi to the Harbor Freight, we're now going to visit the Blue Box store, Lowe's, with the Craftsman V20 3/8 Impact CMC F910B, which is again $99 and 165 foot-pounds now. The Craftsman is intriguing to us because the last impact wrench from the V20 line we tested was very similar to the DeWalt current generation DCF 894 mid-torque for less coin, and yet the last impact driver from Craftsman we tested was a bit of a letdown in performance and specs honesty. So we're hoping this impact wrench brings things back to that happy place, and considering the 5.7 inch length and RPM and IPM and torque rating of this 3/8 not really matching any DeWalt current 3/8 we're familiar with, like the DCF 883 and 890 being higher rated than those traditional tools, do we have something from Craftsman now that's actually unique? Is that a good thing? We want to know. Finally, our last stop on the 3/8 train, we're going to be circling back to Harbor Freight for another brush model, this time from Bauer, a tool some of you in the comments have not relented about testing. This is the most perplexing and strange tool of the bunch today. In our opinion, this 1783C-B is both the cheapest on the day at $70 and advertised as 325 foot-pounds. Are they for real? I mean, I know this is 6.5 inches long, so it wouldn't be insane power for some brands this size, but this is a brushed Harbor Freight cordless after all. Those figures are of course bolt breakaway, unlike the rest of the specs we've been showing today, but in true Harbor Freight fashion, this is one of those tools they chose to leave the working or tightening torque off of, no fastening spec at all, so unless this somehow does make 325, that's going to hurt it today on our new dedicated 3/8 inch rank chart. So let's find out. Our first test is called Working Torque, 5 seconds and forward. As a reminder, all the impacts we purchased for today's episode were financed by you guys watching these episodes and purchasing our tees, sweatshirts, and rank charts. Here's the Harbor Freight Earthquake. $119 foot-pounds doesn't sound like a whole lot. Then again, we don't have a lot to base this off of yet. So here's the Ryobi HP. $131 foot-pounds now, putting out a bit more despite dimensionally being a bit less, though that battery design makes offering something truly compact in the Ryobi line a bit difficult, we feel. hanging off the end there is probably going to get in the way. Now for the Craftsman brushless V20. $168. Not huge numbers yet, but building quite a gap, that Craftsman, so far looking more like their comparatively impressive wrenches rather than their drivers. Last up with the Bauer from Harbor Freight, shown in white on screen. Only 126 so far, and I say only because, well, they did slap 325 on the side of this thing. It's got a long way to go in the coming tests to reach that. And to be honest, we feel despite this being the lowest cost impact today, its $70 price point is also a bit bogus. Why is that? Because we own the Bauer Impact driver as well, and let's be honest for a second, these two tools are the same. Like identical, save for just one of the stickers and a hex collet rather than 3/8 drive anvil. Same weight, injection molded body, and everything. Yet the driver was only $40, or about 57% of the cost of this 3/8. Just because of an anvil change, and despite this parity, they're calling the driver 1,300 inch-pounds or 108 foot-pounds, and this one's 325? Definitely some fuzzy math or marketing going on over there at the old Harbor Freight. But that Bauer did score quite well for itself and did make some real power for us. So let's see how this is able to ratchet up things on longer tests. Our second test is called Max Torque, 10 seconds in reverse. Here's the Ryobi taking on the Harbor Freight Earthquake. $183 over $171. That Ryobi still coming out ahead. Now let's see if the Craftsman can build on its own lead. Over 200 now, 205 from the V20, good stuff. Lastly, the Bauer, which in driver form was pretty potent, so eliminating those hex adapter losses, let's see what she can do. $206, every bit as potent as the Craftsman, and then a little bit more in this test. The driver made as high as 166 in this same test length, so that gives you an idea of how much you're losing from a hex collet and adapter hardware in performance, which we've also seen measured with similar results with Mancaver Tools' Frankenstein anvil swap to Milwaukee in that episode. Alright, last test, best case scenario, 15 seconds, their best run on screen with a freshly charged battery. Here's the last chance, 4 points from the Earthquake in Ryobi HP. $201 over $186, these tools seemingly having a predictable relationship with each other. Now for the Craftsman to try for that number one spot. $230, a nice bump up from its last max torque run. And now for the budget brushed Bauer Behemoth. That's 223, matching much of the Craftsman's power delivery, but not able to put up the same kind of numbers. Before we revisit the Ryobi to see what effect its other batteries have without that HP battery communication, let's head over to our rank chart and fill in these new 4 purchases to see where they stack up in this new category. Their power runs are recorded here, and like on our driver's rank chart, which we surprisingly see similar levels of torque to these, their runs are divided by 5 instead of 10 here, since those figures are so close. So that's 24, 34, and 37 for the Earthquake. Not too great. 26, 37, and 40 for the Ryobi. 34, 40, and 46 for the Craftsman. That's quite good. And 25, 41, and 45 for the Bauer. Also pretty decent. The Earthquake is the longest, so it'll fit in the least number of places and made the least amount of power today, so it gets dinged with 27.8 foot-pounds per inch here. The Ryobi is much shorter and made a bit more power, 37.4. The Craftsman is short-ish and made a lot of power, 40.4. And the Bauer, quite long too, 34.3 points. For torque claims, all of these tools made their claims and then some, full marks for 100 points each. For the Bauer, it's another story. If they advertised any other figure other than that 325, it would be helping its case here, but 69% or 69 points. If you have an idea of what we should do other than use the 325 figure here, let us know below. I don't know, multiplying it by 0.8, since loosening is 20% easier, not sure. Then for price as a function of power, we get 31, 30.8, 34.9, and 47.8 points in this column. The Earthquake, using the same process we used to determine the Earthquake high torque bear's price in that episode. That totals 253.8, 271.2, 295.3, and 262.1, putting the Craftsman up into first place, the Ryobi second, Bauer third, and Earthquake at the bottom, which is honestly how I would personally rank these tools as well. A dedicated 3/8 should be small, otherwise what's the point of owning it over another mid-size option that also brings a lot more punch. That Ryobi, a bit of a physical constraint, making tools smaller with a battery shape like that though, and while it's HP, it's not using that HP battery communication, so does that communication really matter? On tools this power, would adding communication really bring more oomph to the motor size these are rocking? Here's the Ryobi with a 3 amp hour P195 HP pack, which uses 21700 cells. The pack overall we've had the best of luck with in this size range. Remember, this tool made 201 in its BCS test. So 203 up from 201 with very similar curves. I'm going to go ahead and call that nada, as we see easily that much variation between runs on the same battery. Now for the Gen 3 4 amp hour high performance Ryobi battery, which is their latest tech. So 211 over 203 and 201, I mean, sure, we could call that on the curve an increase. We weren't able to see that kind of curve and peak with other batteries, but not the kind of difference we're used to seeing with larger HP tools that do have the battery pickups. So I wouldn't get too caught up in what type of battery you use on this type of tool, or maybe other small HP tools in general. That remains to be seen. The Craftsman V20 seems to be the buy from today's testing. It's 99 bucks. It impressed us a lot. It's much smaller and shorter than the sometimes comparable in power Bauer. Might be a unique design to the V20 line and not just a DeWalt copy, who knows. And in day-to-day use, we've been using it, and it has been able to take off some caliper bolts and other tasks that we were surprised that sort of a budget 3/8 like this could do. We think this one hits above its weight, and it's some nice redemption after the last V20 we tested, their driver, which we were less impressed with. I appreciate you joining us on this quadruple head-to-head. Click like because algorithm. Find the winner in a link below, and thanks for watching.